Close your eyes and picture a quiet Texas town. Before sunrise, streetlights still humming, sprinklers ticking in front yards. The kind of calm that makes you feel like nothing bad could ever happen here. Now, drop into a single-story brick home in Robinson, just outside Waco, where a woman dials 911 with a voice that's steady but strained. With not breathing, she says the back door's open. She says guns are missing. She says she doesn't know what happened. That woman is Darlene. When first responders rush in, they find Keith barely alive, a devastating head wound, a pink froth at his lips. He's rushed to the hospital, hooked to machines, and 2 days later, he's gone. A father of 3 little boys, a son, a husband, and now, the center of a murder investigation. Here's who they were. Keith grew up nearby. Solid, dependable. A utilities engineering assistant, he liked routine and family dinners and being home by dusk. Beautiful, ambitious. A former dental assistant who went back to school for nursing. High school charm, big smile. The kind of woman who made friends easily and kept her nails neat even on busy days. They met in college. Then married in 1999. 3 boys arrived in quick succession. Their house sat a stone's throw from Keith's parents. 父母帮忙照顾孩子，从外面看，这就像一张德克萨斯明信片。Barbecues, birthday parties, Sundays with grandparents. But lift the frame, and you'll see the picture shifting. Money was tight. Keith took a less demanding. Darlene wanted the life she'd imagined. Nice things. A certain shine they fought. Not constant screaming matches, but that persistent friction of bills, expectations, and exhaustion. You know, the kind small edges wearing into deep grooves. The night before the 911 call, Darlene goes out with friends. She says she gets home around 8:30. There's an argument. Small if it's the 100th time. She says she leaves to cool off, then comes back, and they make peace. Keith goes to bed in the master bedroom. Darlene says she sleeps with the kids because the youngest is fussy. A movie playing low in the background. Just before dawn, she hears the dog bark. She doesn't check. Around 6, she gets up, sees the back door open, walks into the bedroom, and finds Keith. Police start with her version. They always do. But the room is whispering a different story. There are no signs of forced entry. The back door, yes, but no pry marks. No splintered frames. No shattered glass. The gun cabinet, supposedly raided, isn't wrecked. And something outside makes the officers pause. Several of the stolen guns are sitting neatly, just outside the back door, like someone placed them there, deliberately. Not like a thief, grabbed and ran. It looks staged. Now, think about timing. The forensic story hints that this didn't happen minutes before the 911 call. It likely happened earlier, when the house was quiet, when no movie played down the hall. And then there's Darlene herself. She's a nurse. She doesn't try CPR. She doesn't get covered in his blood trying. Sharing again, on the 911 call, she's more precise than panicked, explaining where she slept, when she woke, which guns are missing. It's not wrong to be calm under stress, but it's memorable when calm sounds like controlled. In the first formal interview, the detectives gently press the inconsistencies. Darlene stops the conversation, asks for a lawyer, and the interview ends. That's her right. But outside the interview room, the case keeps moving. A second search of the house turns up something that changes everything buried in the kitchen trash. A pair of latex gloves, inside one finger, a tiny .22 caliber shell casing. On the gloves, gunshot residue, and DNA. Now the motive starts to come into focus. There's life insurance. Hundreds of thousands of dollars worth. Combine financial stress with a marriage fraying at the edges, and you have motive. Not proof, but motive makes investigators look harder. Motor thing to check. 19 days after the shooting, they arrest Darlene Gentry for murder. And here's the twist. Keith's parents, who love their son and have known Darlene for years, they want to believe her. They need to. Out on bond, she reaches out to a landowner she knows, Robert Pavey. She asks about a piece of property near Axtell with a pond. She says it could be a place to remember Keith, take the boys fishing, make new memories. Sweet, until she asks if the pond can be filled in. Filled in, as in buried. That question lights up every alarm bell in Robert's head. He calls the police. Detectives wonder if the murder weapon is in that pond. What would Darlene do if she thought someone was about to drain it? So they set the stage. Robert calls Darlene. He says he's getting ready to drain the pond before filling it. The next day, under quiet surveillance, Darlene shows up wearing waders and carrying a probing tool. She steps into the murky water, and heads directly to one specific area. She pokes, stirs, searches, as if she's remembering the motion that put something there in the first place. She doesn't know the police have already dragged the pond and pulled out a .22 caliber revolver, the very caliber of that tiny shell casing nestled in the latex glove in her trash. They're just watching her try to find it. That video. But it's not alone. Prosecutors add the latex gloves with gunshot residue and DNA. They add the suspicious, daft scene with neatly placed guns. They add the back door with no forced entry. They add the time of injury evidence that doesn't match her story. And they add the money. The life insurance that would wipe out debts and reset a life. The defense fights where they can. Poke holes. Raise doubts. Challenge procedures. But they don't call witnesses. In the end, the jury watches a mother of 3 invaders digging for a gun that's already on an evidence table. They listen to the 911 call. They look at gloves, and they convict her of murder. The judge sentences Darlene Gentry to 60 years. She maintains her innocence. Years pass. Appeals fail. She serves her time at the Lane Murray unit in Gatesville. A separate court later grants permanent custody of the boys to Keith's parents and orders no contact from Darlene. 3 little boys grow up without their father, and by design of the law, without their mother. What lingers about this case isn't just the forensic neatness. The glove, the casing, the revolver sleeping under muddy water. It's the way a manufactured story crumbled under the weight of real details. A back door left open like a prop, guns arranged like stage dressing, a calm voice on a 911 call that felt rehearsed, and then that pond, a quiet cold mirror that, once disturbed, reflected everything that mattered. When people who knew Keith talk about him, they don't talk about crime scenes. They talk about a man who traded a bigger paycheck for dinners at home, a steady presence who coached little boys through tantrums and bedtime, who really tried to keep the wheels on. He was the kind of man small towns are built on, and in a place that still hums under streetlights before dawn. His absence is louder than any 911 recording. The mountain of evidence, the crystal clear surveillance footage of the abduction, and his long, disturbing criminal history of preying on children. The defense had nothing they couldn't argue. The facts. The jury saw the man who had used a mother's desperation as a weapon, who had lured a child with the promise of a cheeseburger, and who had committed the ultimate act of evil. It took them only minutes to find him guilty of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and sexual battery. The story of Cherish Periwinkle is a brutal reminder of the darkness that can hide behind a friendly smile. It's a lesson in caution, a testament to the importance of trusting our instincts. But most of all, it is the memory of a little girl named Cherish, whose life, full of promise, was stolen, but will never